This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Skipping cold and flu season is Plan A. But if you do get sick, be prepared for Plan B with Kleenex lotion tissues. Kleenex lotion tissues moisturize skin, helping prevent the added discomfort of red, irritated skin on top of your cold and flu symptoms. So this cold and flu season, grab Kleenex lotion tissues. Visit Kleenex.com to learn more and buy now. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Did you know you can opt out of winter? With Vrbo, save up to $1,500 for booking a month-long stay. With thousands of sunny homes, why subject yourself to the cold? Just filter your search by monthly stays and save up to $1,500. Book now at Vrbo.com.
Doors closing.
Okay, wait a second. You actually ate the candle?
It was dark. It looked like a chocolate cupcake.
You know, you really shouldn't be allowed near mood lighting.
Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear your story.
That's pretty much our whole thing.
Yeah, it's either ghost stories or Mason's culinary crimes.
I wouldn't feel too bad if I were you. Back when I was in college, I accidentally ate a plastic apple in my professor's office. I swear it looked real.
That's definitely embarrassing. I'll bet the professor was bad they lost their fake fruit display.
Who has fake fruit in their office these days anyway?
Spoken like someone who has made the same mistake.
I can confidently say I've never accidentally eaten fake fruit.
What about intentionally?
Nope, and the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in college was a botched attempt at a keg stand. But we don't need to talk about that.
This is Tales from the Blue Line by Auditory Anthology.
Anyway, I've also got a ghost story for you. A true one, if you believe in that sort of thing. Happened right here in Chicago.
The chewing gum-covered floor is yours, my friend.
It started with 3 guys, Danny, James, and me. We all worked at a law firm downtown.
Danny, James, and I used to work as litigation assistants at Alder, Green, and Smallbridge, one of the big law firms in downtown Chicago. We were hired around the same time, so we went through our onboarding together, learned the ropes together, and suffered the same overbearing partners together. In our way, we became a band of brothers. The job title of litigation assistant makes the work sound a bit more sophisticated than it really was. We were just glorified gophers for whichever attorneys got their hands on us on a given day or week, and we just catered to their demands and whims. We rarely did anything more technical than labeling, collating, and filing documents, and our most elaborate task was probably filling coffee orders. The pay wasn't bad, however, and the overtime we frequently worked made that even better. Danny and I grew up in the north suburbs in Highland Park, in the sort of middle-class comfort that anyone who's ever seen a John Hughes film would recognize. We attended Big Ten schools and returned to Chicago after graduation. If I'm being honest, our primary goal was to enjoy our 20s before we embarked on the inevitably grander but more responsibility-laden next stage of our existence. For Danny and me, Alder Green was the way station where we paused to ponder our future and enjoy our present. We never doubted that life was full of great promise and that we were entitled to it. This was pre-2008, mind you, though I won't say by how much. James was different. He came from much more modest means. He grew up in a small town downstate, and only one of his parents had ever finished high school, let alone college. James was bright, the valedictorian of his class, and voted most likely to succeed. Although he was sort of a big fish in a small pond, we calculated once that our high school was bigger than his whole town. Anyway, James did 2 years of community college while working part-time before he transferred to Illinois to complete his degree. His college grades were good, I think, but I got the sense from what he told us about school that he never felt at home there. He wasn't in any fraternity and didn't do much beyond work and study. I got the sense that he had an acute awareness of a yawning gap in his upbringing he could never quite manage to close, one that left him feeling forever on the outside looking in. James came to Chicago after school, not to enjoy his youth and the city, but to earn money and make good on his potential. He was diligent, usually formal to a fault with the lawyers. "Yes, sir, no, sir, whatever you need, sir, right away, sir." He wanted to get ahead, although I doubt he knew beyond financial security what ahead meant. He often begged off going out with Danny and me, usually claiming he needed to save money, although I suspect there was more to it. Anyway, after 2 years at Alder Green, Danny, James, and I applied to law school. We all got accepted, Danny and me at local schools. James got into the same places, but he also won a full scholarship to a place out west. I'm pretty sure, but not positive, it was USC out in LA. Danny and I were a little jealous, but James, strangely enough, never got too excited about the prospect. In fact, he told us that he'd probably have stayed with us in Chicago but just couldn't pass up the free ride. As spring rolled around, Danny and I opted to stop working and take off the summer before school. James intended to keep working right up until he started classes. To celebrate the 3 of us going off to law school, some of the attorneys we'd worked for took us out to dinner at a nearby restaurant after work on the Thursday before what would be Danny and my last day. We took advantage of the free food and drinks. I'm pretty sure the attorneys would find a way to leave the firm with the tab, and by the time we exited the restaurant sometime after 11, we were a little tipsy. Okay, more than a little. The 3 of us all lived at various points off the Blue Line in the direction of Forest Park, so we made our way together to the nearest station. We stumbled onto the train and sat talking loudly, not realizing until we emerged into the night sky after passing Division that we'd gotten on going the wrong way. We laughed at our collective stupidity and got off at Damon, where we had to cross over to the other side to get the train going back the right way. Danny and I were heading down the stairs when James yelled at us to stop, come back up, and get a hold of something across the street, saying that we weren't going to believe this. Danny and I climbed back up and looked to where James was pointing. Sure enough, down below the tracks we could see in the window of a bar the script lettering of a red neon sign that read, "Jimmy B's Tavern." "I'll be damned," I said. "They built a bar in your honor." "Not so fast," Danny said, drunkenly poking me in the shoulder. "He's always gone by James. Heck, he made a point of that back during orientation, remember? I'm James, not Jim, not Jimmy." Danny mocked James's voice as he uttered the last sentence. "Bradford, James Bradford," I threw in, doing my best Sean Connery. James told us to shut up, explaining that he'd insisted on being called James in Chicago because everyone back home had always called him Jimmy, and he wanted to be more formal at work, be more grown up, get taken more seriously. He didn't want to be Jimmy the Hick from the Sticks. "But," he started to explain. "But what?" I asked. James never answered the question. We stood there in the cool night air, every breath visible, while Jimmy, with a slight smile, kept shaking his head and muttering, "This is a really weird coincidence." We could see the inbound train in the distance. It would probably arrive within a minute. "Well," I finally said, "if we're calling it a night, we should cross over now. But maybe the gods are telling us we need to have another round." Danny and I started down, while James hesitated. A deer caught in the lights of the oncoming train. Danny grabbed James by the hand and pulled him, telling him that he couldn't pass this up. So we exited the station and made our way to the tap room. We opened the door just as we heard the train pulling out above us. We went inside, the cold air and halogen glow outside giving way to dim lighting, moist warmth, and bustling noise. The joint was surprisingly busy for a Thursday night, with nearly all the tables filled save one corner booth. Danny and I grabbed it, while James sidled up to the bar to order. He came back with beer and a big grin. "You're not going to believe this," James said as he sat down a pitcher and 3 mugs, "but when I told the guy how we found the place, he insisted this was on the house." "I'll be damned," Danny said as he started pouring. "Finally, a good easy scam for free drinks. There's got to be a ton of Dannys in the city we can hit, don't you think?" Once all 3 mugs were filled, Danny suggested we toast to James. "No," I corrected him, "not to James, to Jimmy B." We clinked glasses and drank. The guy at the table next to us stood up and sauntered over. "Jimmy?" he asked, putting a hand on James's shoulder. "Jimmy Bradford?" James looked at the guy. "It's me, Donnie." James cocked his head and stared at him, as if trying to remember who he was. "Donnie! From Schofield High?" James stared harder. "Jesus, Jimmy, I used to copy off your papers in history class." "Oh, yeah," James said. "This guy," Donnie said, addressing Danny and me while he shoved a finger into James's chest, "was a legend, a genius. Hell, I wouldn't have graduated high school without him. Let me buy you guys a drink." "That's okay," James replied. But Donnie had already left and gone to the bar. He quickly returned with 4 shots of whiskey that he placed on the table. "The doubles for Jimmy," he said as he handed them out. "To Jimmy B," he proclaimed. We joined his toast, and the 3 of us slammed the drinks down, followed by James. As James finished, Donnie slapped him on the back, told him it was great to see him, and left. James was still recovering from the surprise of seeing Donnie when the bartender came over with another round of shots, announcing they were courtesy of the man sitting 4 booths away. We all turned to where the bartender pointed, where sat a bespectacled, gray-haired man who raised a glass of beer to us. "Friendly place," I said. "Do you guys have any idea who that is?" Danny shook his head. James strained his neck to look at him, paused in thought, and then looked back, a smile of recognition growing on his face. "I think that's Mr. Gottfried," James said. He looked again and then nodded to himself in confirmation. "Yeah, I'm sure of it." "Who the hell," I asked, "is Mr. Gottfried?" "My 11th grade history teacher. Nice guy, always encouraged me." "So why is he here buying us drinks?" I asked. Danny started to make some crack that was likely going to end in an inappropriate joke about pedophilia when this cute blonde girl, hair pulled back in a ponytail, bounded over to us. She cut Danny off with a slap of her hands on the table, announcing, "Well, I'll be if it isn't Jimmy B." Danny and I turned to James, awaiting an explanation. Even in the bar's dimness, we could see him blushing. "Nice to see you, Susie," James stammered. "You know," Susie said, addressing Danny and me, "Jimmy B's the one that got away." She turned back to James, taking his hands in hers. "Maybe I can persuade him to give me another chance. Well, Jimmy, would you at least join me for a drink, for old time's sake?" James sat there, holding Susie's hands in his, staring at her but more through her, as if he were looking for something behind her. It was one of those moments that probably lasted only a few seconds, but seemed to go on forever. Danny finally broke the impasse, saying that if Jimmy didn't want to join her, he'd be happy to. Susie laughed, saying that while Danny was a nice-looking boy, the offer was only for Jimmy B. Danny told James to stop being an idiot and practically pushed him out of the booth and into her arms, and Susie then led James over to another table. Danny and I talked while nursing our beers until we decided after another half hour or so it was time to head home. We walked over to where James was sitting. He sat on the inside of a booth with Susie nestled close to him, her arm around him. Several other people, all about our age, were crowded in. They talked excitedly as they reminisced about James's life, while James just drank it all in. We told him we were leaving and asked if he wanted to come with us. Now we were just being polite. He looked happier than we'd ever seen him. To my surprise, he seemed to contemplate the offer. But whatever thoughts he had of leaving vanished when Susie rested her head on his shoulder. He slowly shook his head no, and he told us that he'd be good and he'd see us tomorrow. As we walked out, we heard one last shout of "To Jimmy B!" over glasses clinking. Danny and I managed to get on the blue line going the proper direction this time. We made it home that night and came into work the next day slightly late with mild hangovers, but since we were mostly doing exit interviews, it didn't matter too much. We looked around for James but couldn't find him, and we both assumed he was probably still sleeping the evening off, perhaps with Susie. Well, we knew where he worked, so we figured we'd be in touch with him at least sometime before he left to go out west. Life drifted on, as it tends to do, but we never heard from James. Danny reached out a few times to see if James wanted to go out with us and catch up, but he never replied, and we finally just gave up, assuming he'd moved on to bigger and better things. Danny and I each did some traveling that summer and had our own concerns. By August, we were both busy with being first-year law students. Several years later, when it became a little easier to find lost people on the internet with Facebook and other social media, I tried to get in touch with James, or at the very least learn what had happened to him. James Bradford is a pretty common name, but I could never discover anything about anyone who might fit his profile. It was as if he had disappeared off the face of the earth, which is hard to do in this day and age of lives lived online. Danny had tragically died just after law school, an aggressive lymphoma that took him away far too quickly, so I couldn't ask him. So for a long time, I just let the mystery rest. I never had reason to ride the Blue Line and get off at the Damon stop, so I never had reason to go back to that bar. But one day, many years later, with nothing else pressing in my life, curiosity got the better of me, and I resolved to return to where we had gone that night. The layout of the area was generally as I remembered it, but instead of a tap room, there was a donut shop. When I asked at the shop and around the neighborhood, no one, not even the old-timers, recalled a bar ever having been at the site. And no one had ever heard of a place called Jimmy B's.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Despite wintry conditions and heavy traffic, the holidays have to go on. That's why Mercedes-Benz SUVs come equipped with the latest safety technology to keep your festive plans on track. Discover the incredible offers for yourself at the Mercedes-Benz Holiday Love Celebration.
So they never found the bar?
Or the guy. It's entirely possible the place just closed, but we'll never know. I think my version is more interesting.
I mean, at least when I get lost on the Blue Line, I end up at O'Hare, not a ghost tavern.
So far.
Don't start.
Jimmy B's Donuts has a nice ring to it, though.
Yeah, as long as a hole in the donut isn't a hole in reality.
Thanks for the story. Wait a minute, where'd he go?
Oh my gosh, I think he disappeared.
Nope, there he is out there on the platform. Looks like he's throwing up in a trash can. Too many visits to Jimmy B's.
This is Illinois Medical District. This is a Blue Line train to downtown and O'Hare.
Tales from the Blue Line by Auditory Anthology is written and produced by me, Keith Conrad. Your narrator is Darren Marlar. Be sure to check out Darren's award-winning paranormal podcast, Weird Darkness, available at weirddarkness.com and your podcast app of choice. If you have a story you'd like to contribute to this series, you can do so by visiting submissions.soundconceptmedia.com or just follow the link in the show notes. You can also support the show by subscribing to our new Substack at auditoryanthology.substack.com. By becoming a paid subscriber, you'll help keep the stories coming. You'll also get every single episode completely commercial-free, and now you can also vote on which story will feature in upcoming episodes.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Despite wintry conditions and heavy traffic, the holidays have to go on. That's why Mercedes-Benz SUVs come equipped with the latest safety technology to keep your festive plans on track. Discover the incredible offers for yourself at the Mercedes-Benz Holiday Love Celebration.